Welcome to Plant Your Seed. I'm your host, Fred Ferris. On each episode, we share stories of how ordinary people have transformed their lives. Each story is compassionate, each story is authentic, and each story is a transformation. Here are the stories of the people who are changing our world by transitioning to a plant-based diet. Today on Plant Your Seed, joining us from Canada, we have Kory Zelickson. Kory is the CEO of Veggie Inc. It is an online marketplace making vegan certified products more widely accessible. Welcome, Kory.
Thanks, Fred. Appreciate it and happy to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. I am so happy to have you here on Plant Your Seed. Now, I know that veganism, cooking, and plant-based foods are your personal passion. Can you tell us how you transitioned to a plant-based diet?
You know, I started, and I think it's important. Like a lot of people try to say, like going vegan or go vegan. I started the process 10 years ago when I started like eliminating meat from my diet. So I went like vegetarian and then fish, and then sort of got towards where I am today over a period of time. And once we had kids as well, it's something that you start incorporating into your lifestyle. But I think that when you look at where we're at today, like there's just so much more accessibility to high quality plant-based alternatives or vegan alternatives than there were back in the day. So legitimately, 10 years ago, if you were going to stop eating meat, there was no other alternative that was available to you at the time. And I think in the world we're in today, plant-based products are becoming so much more commonplace and mainstream that it makes it a lot easier for people today to be able to make that transition than it might have been, a number of years ago. So for me, it was a continuous process to get to where I'm at today. And there's, all sorts of other challenges that come up when you are, raising kids and have a family too, and explaining and teaching it to them as well. So that's sort of been like my journey towards getting to a vegan diet. And it's been an exciting journey, and I feel more and more appreciative for it. And even today, like you had mentioned, like I really do enjoy cooking. And one of my favorite things is to cook such great meals that someone who's not vegan or might be interested can just be like, wow, okay, there's the stereotypes of like what kind of food vegans eat. But, I would say that any meal that we cook at our house is just as good as any other meal, whether it's plant-based or not.
Right. Now, let's get into that. You mentioned that you have kids. Okay, I have kids. I got 3 daughters. How old are your kids?
My kids are 5, 7, and 9.
And what's the breakdown? Boys, girls?
My oldest daughter's 9, and then I have 2 boys that are the 7 and 5-year-old.
All right. Now, how difficult? I mean, you it was a nice slow transition over 10 years, which is great to get everybody on board. How did that go, and how is it going right now with your kids?
Well, I think again, for me, there's a lot of people that are vegan and for different reasons. And I was sort of like triggered back in the day, 10 years ago with movies like Forks Over Knives and seeing like slaughterhouse videos. And that kind of is what drove me towards this direction to begin with.
Right.
Nowadays, there's all kinds of data that shows, that plant-based diets or vegan diets are, help with improving performance. And like part of what we're doing is, trying to identify, and movies like Game Changers that recently came out that really identify the strengths of this diet or this lifestyle for things that other than ethics, like sports performance or general health and wellness. But for me, it was specifically for ethical reasons when I started, and when I stopped eating meat. And the way that we've communicated it to our kids has been, not graphic, but blunt,
Right.
and they understand, they love animals, and they understand that, eating meat means that they're eating an animal, and they it didn't even really require a lot more explanation from us to explain why we're eating vegan food. And they understand it. Like, even my 5-year-old is hilarious. Like, he gets very concerned about when he goes to people's houses if they're going to try to feed him meat, so there, even for a 5-year-old, like, to be that diligent about it is really cool to see. And again, with kids, part of the challenge has always been accessibility to like alternatives, so the kids, like a lot of the I would say, like, the dairy products, right, are the toughest for kids,
Right.
because that's where you have like the cheese sticks and all of that, and snacks and everything. And one specific area, and I think even just a number of years ago, when it came to dairy alternatives, there was a lot more limited selection as well. And now you have like this like incredible assortment of plant-based milks that you have access to, and plant-based cheese is really like, there's been a huge change in the quality and similarity to regular cheese too. So replacing things like cheese sticks, as an example, is something that's like practical now. So you really don't have to sacrifice a lot in what you're offering to your kids as a result of maintaining a vegan diet anymore. Like, there's great alternatives for pretty much everything now.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably the hardest thing for us is when, as like you mentioned, when the kids go to a birthday party and there's pizza or there's cupcakes or whatever.
Yeah.
My kids are, we call them, I guess, plant preferred, or they're vegan, but they're probably every once in a while they might have a slice of cheese pizza at a friend's house for a
Yeah.
party or
Yeah.
something like that. And we're not
Sure.
strict with that. They understand what they're doing and they understand where that cheese is coming from. They just, at that point, make that decision, and then they just go back to, kind of get back on the wagon and are vegan again. But like you said, dairy products are really tough.
Yeah, dairy products have always been the toughest one, but like, the quality of those products now is really, like, a great improvement. And I just seen like a trend with like a lot of like the cashew based cheeses now. Like, we've totally replaced, cream cheese with cashew based cheese, and we like to make our own cheeses too.
Right.
But you don't want to be like punitive with the kids
Exactly.
when it comes to that, so they know that in our house it's this way. And they'll never eat meat, but if they're out somewhere and they
Exactly.
have a cupcake or something, we're not like punishing them for it. But
Right.
they very clearly understand exactly like what you said. They understand the differences between what's plant-based or what's not, or what's vegan or what's not, because we were chatting about the whole plant-based thing too earlier on. Seeing a plant-based product that has dairy in it, which
Right.
doesn't make any sense to me.
No, that doesn't make any sense to me either. Um, I remember this one story. My littlest one, who's 11 now, but she was I transitioned about 8 years ago, so she was really little, and we went to this barbecue, and she had never even seen any kind of meat that wasn't vegan. So she saw like a hot dog, she thought it was like a vegan hot dog. She just assumed.
Yep. Yep.
And she went to take a bite out of it, and luckily my other daughters were there. They're like, "No, no, you can't do that." So she had no idea though, because she had never. I'm sure it's the same with like your youngest. You
Yeah.
just don't have that thought that there's something other than vegan products out there.
Well, genuinely, because we do like once a week, we do like burger night, right, where we make plant-based burgers and stuff, and I could totally see that happening too.
Right.
Yeah.
It's burger night. Um, Now, how is like your wife? Is she supportive? Did she transition over the 10-year period, or is she not vegan?
No, we've the two of us have really been on the same page for many years. And at the time where we stopped eating meat to begin with, we were also living in the Caribbean at the time. And accident, like the quality of the meat that was there to begin with was like really poor already, and so it just made it that much easier to stop in general, and it's just something that carried through. And so we've been on the same page, throughout the years. And then in terms of like our own, and we like, we both love to cook, and ever since COVID, like, we stay at home and cook a lot. But yeah, my wife's been there with me the whole time through the process.
Yeah, that's great to have somebody supportive
Yes.
in your corner.
I actually can't imagine having to be in a relationship where you have, really someone that's trying to be vegan, especially when it's like for ethical reasons, and then a partner that's not. I could see that, being in terms of like your daily lifestyle, I could see that being a struggle.
Yeah, definitely. Now, what about your family? If you have family get-togethers or friends, or you go out or whatever, do they hassle you, or do they, I don't know, make fun of you, or are they just kind of like, this is what he's doing?
It's funny because that's like, I think that's a challenge that a lot of people go through. And I grew up, like, my parents were like Eastern European, so like we ate, lots of meat and regularly in the diet and everything like that. And I'm Jewish as well, so like, like Baba's like chicken soup and stuff like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think it really broke my mother's heart when I had to tell her that I wouldn't eat the chicken soup anymore. So it's, what, like, I found, like, at least for like our parents, like, they were very accommodating. And my parents have, over the last number of years, in their own way, been starting to sort of like eat a lot less meat,
Mm-hmm.
and starting to, and even before, plant-based meats and plant-based alternatives, like, there's so many ways to cook with like whole foods and vegetables in creative ways also that are delicious, that are not necessarily just replacing meat with plant-based meat. So they've been very open to it over the years. And, obviously, I think that when we visit with the kids and stuff, it makes it a little bit challenging for them in terms of like what they feel they can prepare for us. But it's gotten a lot better, and they've even transitioned themselves out of like a little bit, like, they're not, haven't gone vegan or anything like that, but they're very understanding of it. And in general too, I think that it's becoming so much more common that more people in general are okay with it. And you meet more and more people that are vegan. It's just becoming more generally mainstream as people start to understand the impact of animal agriculture and of meat consumption on their health and wellness, and on their communities, right? So I think that from my own perspective and my family, like, it's been, we've had a lot of support, thankfully. And I think that on a broader scope too, I think more people are understanding this now than ever.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned cooking. I mean, like, is there a certain meal, a certain dish, a certain vegetable, a certain thing that you enjoy cooking? Like, that is your go-to?
There's no go-to, I would say, because I like we cover such a diverse, like, we do. I love cooking vegan Chinese food, and like hot and sour soup, and stir fries and stuff. And we really got into making like vegan sushi. And there's
Mm,
such cool ways to, there's like techniques you can use, like when you're cooking with tomatoes to simulate tuna. And
right.
red pepper, when you roast it and peel the skin off, you can steam it and then do it like nigiri over sushi. And we do like a lot with tofu. There's a trick where you freeze tofu,
Yeah, that's a great
and when
trick.
yeah, it's a great trick. And so we do that, and we make like vegan chicken nuggets, and like we do like vegan chicken Caesar salads, where you have like a kale Caesar salad, and you use that technique to like, it really like texturizes the tofu.
Yeah, it
So it's
does.
a great addition. So we do tacos all the time. We love like portobello tacos. We do sushi, Chinese food. We like try to like really mix it up a lot, and there's so much access to like incredible, like for the holidays, we made a seitan, like a vegan brisket. And
Oh,
it was like
nice.
just, incredible, like so good, And so,
Nice.
and we have people that are not vegan that are trying this stuff and just like genuinely really enjoying it. And for me, there's nothing that's like a more satisfying feeling than feeding vegan food to somebody that isn't vegan and having them really appreciate it.
Right, right. That frozen tofu trick is amazing.
Yeah.
I found that even this is what we did this summer is we froze it and then you just cut it, make it into square steaks and
Yeah.
marinate it. And it takes a couple of days. You have to plan ahead, but then you just throw it on the grill, and it's the texture is like I guess like I mean I haven't had chicken in a long time, but I guess it'd be like chicken or fish texture where it's not that tofu-y, kind of soft
Yeah.
texture that people associate with tofu.
Yeah. My favorite, actually, like my wife used to love, like chicken and waffles, fried chicken
Yep.
and waffles. And so like I usually I almost like keep a couple of tofus in the freezer just for whenever we feel like it. And then so you take it out though, and when you batter that and then use like an air fryer, you can create really amazing fried chicken, and waffles and stuff. So it's really like there's so much creativity there, right? That can go
Yeah.
into your cooking. And so like I never feel like people are always like, oh, you're vegan, like what do you eat? Like I never feel like I've sacrificed on the quality of food or the diversity of the food or even like the different cuisines, right? That
Yeah.
like we do everything from Asian to European cooking and stuff too, and it's all there. You can do it.
Yeah, you would think that to me, chefs in general, okay, the chefs that are out there, to me, it would be so much more exciting to try to cook something vegan than to try to cook the old standard thing that everybody has at every single restaurant everywhere. But oh, mine's better. I got a little more of this in my sauce or whatever. But you would think it would be such an inventive thing that you would just love to create as a chef.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, for something that we're looking at doing, will be like, working with, celebrity chefs and getting them involved with, cooking vegan and learning to cook vegan and actual vegan chefs as well. Like I think that, for someone to be able to start to create incredible vegan meals and food, you know, versus cooking, traditionally, like it's an exciting and creative challenge for them.
Yeah, I would think so. Now, as far as changes in your life, have you since you've been vegan, have you noticed any physical or mental positive changes?
I think that I'm definitely not like I don't want even, I'm not going to stereotype it, but like the idea of vegan people being like super fit, like that's not me. Like I still like to,
That's not
I
me either. I'm
no,
a
no.
junk food
I like
vegan.
to eat. I really enjoy food a lot, and so I will. I'll eat like just it's the expectation. Just like a burger, is not healthy for somebody to eat on a regular basis. Likewise, Beyond Burger is not healthy to eat every day either. So I don't ever like hold back. Like I feel like I eat great food, but I'm not like on a very specific sort of like diet. Like I do take care of myself and I exercise regularly and have like good lifestyle habits for sure.
Hmm.
But and it's an interesting topic too because I was reading a lot about and I spoke to somebody that tried to go vegan. This is interesting. Like what happened was that this person tried to go vegan, and then to source their protein in their diet, they really focused towards like pea proteins and lentils and that kind of stuff. Depending on your digestive system, can be very challenging for your body
Right.
and can give you stomach issues and stuff like that. And so she ended up going back and starting to eat meat again. And some of the research I had done and seen, and in the conversation too, is that like it's okay to eat like the fortified plant-based proteins, right? Like having tofu, having seitan, having plant-based burgers or whatever it might be. Like there's the grouping of people I think that really are like the whole plant people, right? And I know lots that don't eat the plant-based meat alternatives,
Mm-hmm.
right? But there's also people that their bodies don't necessarily agree with the whole plant diet, where they're working off of like a lot of like nuts, seeds, and beans, right?
Right.
So I think that it has to be like acceptable for people, that like it's okay to eat some of the processed fortified products as well. So I guess like if I were really trying to be like the healthiest vegan I can be, I'd probably eliminate some of the processed stuff out of my diet. But I just think that it's more balanced for me, this personally, like this way.
Right. And I think I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's what works for you.
Exactly.
If people like you transitioned over 10 years, I transitioned in one day. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So it's
Amazing.
it's whatever works for you. It doesn't matter how you
Yeah,
get there. To me, it's just that you get there and then your journey starts from there.
exactly.
Did you have any particular struggles like during that 10-year period that you were like, I'm not going to do this? I mean, you said it was for ethical reasons. Now, what do you mean specifically about that?
I guess, at the time, I'd watching sort of some of the like the media that was focused around like animal welfare and animal rights, and then really understanding at that stage like what the real meaning of this is, and what eating that steak means to another life, and in seeing some of what happens in slaughterhouses, and really understanding animal agriculture a little bit better from that perspective. I just couldn't. After that, I just couldn't get myself to go and eat meat, and so I felt good about that. But then, you start. Then you like it's like then you start thinking, oh well, okay, well, what about cheese? What's the impact of that? And or what a fish, and so like it wasn't an overnight thing for me, but it was a transition. But ultimately, always really for that purpose, I guess, and never really like I never really did it thinking that it was going to make me healthier or more fit.
Right. It's interesting because once you get to that point and you start to realize that when you go to the store that this was a cow or this
Yeah,
was a fish or this was a chicken or whatever, and then all of a
right.
sudden your eyes are just so wide open and you can't go back.
Yeah, exactly. And that's and then but then once you start, right, like so you start eliminating meat, and then you start thinking about like the secondary products, right? So that's like where your dairy is like, and then you really start understanding what goes on at dairy farms. You're like, well, that's cruel, and that's
Right.
no better either, right? And so it's like it's funny because you can dive very deep into it and like look at like all products that contain animal products in them, or everything that might cause suffering to animals too. So like you can dive very deep down the rabbit hole. And I don't think that there's anyone on this planet that completely lives 100% without animal products, because animals are incorporated into so much of human life. And you need like that's where like you get to the point where you just keep trying to eliminate more and more products. Then after you're not eating dairy anymore, then you're thinking about, wow, my car has got leather seats. Next time
Right.
I buy a car, I'm not buying leather seats, right? And the way that I see it, and like with our business, like we're trying to make an impact by providing greater accessibility to plant-based products by mainstreaming it. So the point being is that I think that the much bigger market overall is people that are not vegan, that are interested in becoming vegan, or interested in incorporating vegan products or more of a plant-based diet into their lives. And the more that companies start to produce plant-based alternatives to like standard products, I think a great example, and just like a prediction I can throw out there, is you look at companies like luxury brands, right? Like Louis Vuitton or Chanel. right?
Hmm.
Like they like have, crocodile farms and stuff like that, and are a large contributor to producing these products that they're I'm not going to dive into that so much, but the point being is that I think that brands like that, if they want to stay on the innovative side of the space, and I'd be willing to bet in the next year that you're going to start seeing more vegan options from companies like luxury brands like Tesla has
Right.
like vegan leather in their cars now. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see companies like Gucci or Louis Vuitton or Chanel or even more mainstream brands start to offer plant-based alternatives. And at the same time, there's like a ton of really great new startups coming out that are doing, like specialty and like handbags and stuff like that are like vegan leather handbags. My wife bought one like last week. So I think that the biggest change that we're seeing now is that this is becoming a lot more mainstream. So for me, the foundation for what I do today ultimately is driven by the background for me, like from an ethical perspective. But I think as a company that we're going to have the biggest impact by making this lifestyle and making vegan products accessible to people that are interested in transitioning or incorporating this into their life.
Right. Now, you were saying basically that if you make it cheaper and easier, people will do it. Like if you take away the leather handbag and you replace it with a product of vegan leather that may be made out of cactus or whatever the vegan leather
Right.
is these days, and it's going to be cheaper and people will buy it.
I think so.
That's kind of the big move to me, is to make it easy and to make it cheap.
Exactly.
Or well, I won't say cheap, I'll just make it inexpensive.
Well, the cost factor, right? Naturally, like when it comes to like vegan products or even food products like Beyond Burgers as an example, like the cost for them has come down already substantially as a company like that gains traction.
Right.
So I think you have a lot of really great startups now that people are supporting that provide other, whether from cosmetics or fashion accessories that are specifically. And the thing is that consumers are more aware and concerned about the ethics of the companies that they work with. So, or that they're purchasing from, I should say.
Sure.
So I think that, it's something that people can feel good about buying. And even if it's at a slight premium, I think people feel good about that. And over time, there's going to be more and more products and existing brands that already have animal products but are starting to understand the importance of transitioning. It's like we this industry has grown so quickly that I think bigger companies are having to catch up, and you even see, meat companies starting to produce plant-based alternatives. When you see that happening, you know that this is making an impact, right?
Right. Right. Like we went out and we were in California, and we were like, what are all these trees? And then you realize they were all the dairy farms that had transferred over to almond milk, and they were all almond trees.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was. It was beautiful too.
Yeah, that's it's great.
Let's talk about your company. I mean, I love this idea. Okay, it's shopveggie.com. That's Vejii, shopveggie.com. Now, I love this idea. First of all, let's start with the mission: to move the world forward one purchase at a time, and the purpose: by making vegan products more accessible to everyone, we can enable humanity to take better care of themselves and the planet. I mean, that's perfect. I love the mission. I love the purpose of this company. What can you tell us about shopveggie.com?
So I guess in line with the mission and the vision, really is the fact that by taking the vegan products and making them more accessible and helping as much as we can to mainstream them, like we want our platform and we want Shop Veggie to be a place that everybody feels comfortable to shop. So if you're already vegan, you know that everything that you get on the site is vegan. But if you're not vegan, we want it to be like a welcoming environment where you can come and try something out or start, and if you're looking at transitioning to vegan, then you literally have one location you can come to get access to thousands of products in a centralized sort of shopping experience, and the move everything forward one purchase at a time, like, and that's really what it speaks to, is that like every order, and we talked about somebody buying, a vegan product and feeling good about it, right? So like
Yep.
every order that gets placed and every customer that comes to buy from the site ultimately is just continuing to push this mission forward, and making these products mainstream for the greater good. So we're really happy about that, and our goal is to be able to offer the best selection, the best prices, and for somebody to be able to get everything in one place. I'm sure that, again, being vegan and having a family, we often have to go shop at 3 different stores
Yeah.
for the week just to get everything we need, right? And
Yeah,
whether
even just for the meal that night.
yeah, and whether it's your produce, or you have vitamins and supplements, which we all know a lot contain gelatin, right? So
Yep.
this is the idea, is that this is a centralized e-commerce marketplace where you can come and you can get everything from your Beyond Burgers or your vegan dairy products, right through to toothpaste and cosmetics and snacks.
Yeah, no, I went on the site and I was looking around and the prices are outstanding. You know what I mean? They're reasonable. They're less than you would pay on Amazon or at the store. Now, how do you do that, and what's the deal with shipping?
Okay, well, sort of like a marketplace model, right? So we connect with different distributors and directly with brands who list and sell their products on the site. So we do have our own warehouse as well, where we stock all of the frozen items, because we want to make sure that if you're buying something frozen, it's arriving frozen, and us having control over that logistics flow is really important. So
Hmm.
the shipping times do vary depending on which distributor or vendor or brand that they're coming from. So similar to when you order something from Amazon, it's not necessarily coming from Amazon, it's coming from a brand or a manufacturer.
Sure.
So the marketplace works like that, with the exception of all the plant-based meats and dairy products, which really are under tighter control, I would say, from on our side. But it's a great opportunity for startup brands, which is a focal point for us as well, and helping local brands gain national exposure on the platform. So a new startup that's coming out with, as an example, of a plant-based shrimp or something, right?
Hmm.
And they're local to California, to San Francisco or Austin or wherever it may be, and they have a new product and they want to launch it. We serve as a platform for them to gain national access to our grouping of customers across the country. So it's an opportunity for us to help smaller startups or like local companies gain broader scale access, while at the same time provides new and innovative products for our customers.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, I look on there and I see pretty much everything that I would buy in the store.
Right.
I mean, there's
Exactly.
thousands and thousands of products. I think I saw something like 3,000 products, and those are vegan only products. They're not like some other places that have vegan and non vegan products. These are just
That's
all
right.
vegan certified.
Correct. And again, we talked about it a little bit. Like, I think that, we try to make sure that everything's vegan versus just considered to be plant-based, because I think there's some ambiguity there too.
Yeah, it's kind of it's interesting in the marketing world right now how they're trying to twist that word plant based into something other than what I think that everyone who's plant based and everybody who is vegan believes it to be.
Correct. Yeah.
Now, what's one thing that's happening in your business right now that you're really excited about?
Well, frankly, the site's been live for probably about 20-25 days now. So we're in startup mode right now, and we're going to be onboarding with our new marketing partner in the new year. So we're really hitting the ground running, and we've got an incredible offering of product on the site now. And we're really excited to be working with some of the we're working with sports with athletes and celebrities that are vegan, and some of which even have their own vegan lines of products as well. So some of the opportunities that we have on the plate that'll be coming up in the new year are going to be really exciting, to work with some really influential people in the space and really help drive home our brand and help us gain national exposure across the country and really promote the right messaging and the communication for Veggie.
Okay, so you got some things in the works.
Well, yes.
Now, where did you get the courage to start this project? I'm sure that you had a job before this, and then all of a sudden you kind of shifting over to this. So, where did you get the courage to start this project?
I've been involved in mainly in e-commerce and tech startups for quite a while, and was more recently involved in the regulated cannabis industry in Canada. So when that industry really started picking up at the time, we were doing that, and we actually had a marketplace model similar to this, but for vaporizers and accessories. So
Hmm.
we sold vapes and bongs and rolling papers and all sorts of head shop products, basically,
Uh-huh.
all over the world. And so it was an interesting, and I think that there's a commonality in the plant based space too, because what made cannabis something of importance for me was really understanding that it truly is a medicine and it's organic, and having firsthand opportunities to see the impact of it on other people's lives was what really drove me to be as passionate about that space. And so, in terms of your question, like my background has been specifically in e-commerce and marketplace models already, so I'm very familiar with the format for that business model. And it really was the conversation, like we talked about, how challenging it is to be able to get everything that you need in one place. And when we recognize the ability, like with all of these, like we're never going to like be our own brand, right? And so we rely on marketing and selling all of the top and most popular brands of vegan products to our customers. So, in an industry now where there's so many new and exciting products and product categories coming to the market, it's just great for us to be able to really expand and offer all these incredible products in our platform.
I think it's a fantastic opportunity for some of the startups that are just trying to, just trying to get going to, hook up with you guys and have you guys distribute their products. It
Right.
sounds like a win-win for everybody, including most importantly the consumer.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, we're super pumped, and we've already seen great traction through the site already, and we've got really big plans for 2021.
Nice. Now, what would you say to somebody listening who wants to be healthier, but is having a hard time understanding what we mean by plant based or vegan and thinks it's too hard?
I think that, frankly, there are so many quality alternatives so that anybody that's not vegan now or interested in going vegan or changing their lifestyle habits or their diet, I think that you could be encouraged because there's just a lot of accessibility to great alternatives at this point. So, like I said earlier, it's not nearly as hard to transition anymore, where you can replace almost any normal meal with a vegan alternative that is actually going to taste really good too. So, like a lot of I've been there in the past where a lot of people are like, oh, it's vegan food, and they're expecting to put something disgusting in their mouth that's going to taste horrible. But like I said, like there's just you can really be creative, and there's so many great options now for people that there's almost like no excuse anymore. Like if you really want to do it, you have great alternatives in front of you to do it. And, you can, and it's not even complicated because you can just literally replace something that's meat with something that's not, or the equivalent alternative to it. So we're in a really great time for this industry, because it's just, there's so many new and emerging products coming to the market, and so much big improvements. Like, remember, like, actually, I was fortunate to meet one of the people that like created the first like tofu hot dog back in the day as a consultant for another company. And when you look at how far the industry and these products have come and how amazing they are now, it's really incredible. So for anybody that's like looking to, to start that process, I would say that, you're going to have a really good shot at achieving it, because you just have a lot of options to replace your regular meals with.
Yeah, I mean, like even now there's carrot dogs. You know what I mean? You just kind of marinate the carrots. I mean, it's just a carrot. Everybody's got them in the fridge, and they just put them on the grill, and next thing you know, they're tasting like a hot dog, and you're like, how does this work?
Well, that's it, right? Like, there's a lot of people that I think their concern is like convenience, right? Like, where it's like, I don't want to go. There's a lot of people that aren't going to go like make their own seitan hot dog, or, I've done that, right? I've made like seitan sausages and roasts and stuff. And, so if you're into that and you want to cook everything yourself, you can do that. And there's already great ways to create great alternatives. But now the convenience factor is so significant, right? That you can just go to the store and pick up, chicken tenders, vegan chicken tenders, or burgers, or, different types of dairy products too. So it's just, it's like a revolution of the old and the new, right? The old traditional vegan foods like seitan and tofu, and then a combination of these like more processed, fortified foods that are available, that are probably a little bit more convenient for somebody that's looking to start incorporating that into their diet.
Yeah, I think that one of the easier ones for me to do is just take the Impossible meat or the Beyond Meat and just throw it in and make it into tacos. You know what I mean? It's such an easy thing that, I mean, like they cook their hamburger that way. You just do the same thing, but you use that instead.
Well, that's almost the challenge, right? Like, so take what you eat as a family 7 nights a week, what your meals are, and like veganize them, right?
Right. And
question for you.
Let
me ask you a question.
All right, actually. You got it.
How do you feel? And this was a question we were talking about eating cultivated meat. That's no kill meat, but it's cultivated animal tissue and cells. Would you eat? Because I think, in my opinion, I think that we've already achieved everything. Like an equal replacement to pretty much everything that would be meat that you can get as a plant-based option, except for a steak. Not that I would ever eat a steak, because that idea of that to me now is completely off the table. Mm-hmm. But the lab-grown meat and cultured meat, how do you feel about that? Would you eat a steak that was grown in a lab and didn't cause an animal suffering?
No. Yeah. I'm not a Frankenfood guy. I don't know. It's just, I think that's just a personal preference. I agree with the non-suffering, obviously.
Yeah.
But to me, I would rather have something more like mushrooms, which is like a very meaty type of food.
Portobello's.
Right. Instead of some kind of lab grown meat.
Yeah, I don't even know how I feel about it. Like you said, I'm not even sure if I would want to eat a steak, even if it was, a no-kill steak and it still tasted like a steak. I haven't had one in so many years. I'm not sure how I'd even feel about eating something that tasted quite like that either.
Yeah, it kind of freaks me out when I get an Impossible burger and I look at it and it's got like, the beet juices coming out of it or whatever, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is vegan, right?
Yeah, you have to like think twice. We have a restaurant chain in Canada called A&W, and they do like a Beyond Burger. And sometimes, like, I'll grab one, and you're like, just looking at it, you're like, are we 100% sure that this is the Beyond Burger here? But
Exactly.
yeah,
Somebody
it's
mess up
interesting.
my order.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what is one habit that might make you stay on track a little easier with your plant-based vegan diet?
Um, I think that everything for us has just become habit, like all of the partially, I guess, with COVID too, like, everybody's like going out a lot less. So you're cooking everything from home for the
Right.
most part, which, you have more control over. Like I'm never like at this stage anymore, I'm never tempted to like eat meat or anything like that. So like from a habitual perspective, like it's already very deeply ingrained in my lifestyle and my family's. But generally I think that you can look at the whole situation now as an opportunity for people that are like at home and really taking the time to cook their own food, to think about what they're eating and what they're putting in their bodies.
Right. Now, do you have any vegan hacks that you use, like the frozen tofu?
Oh yeah, the food hacks. I've got lots of food hacks. I do the frozen tofu, or when I make sushi, I de-skin the tomatoes and then dice them up with a marinade to simulate like kind of like a tuna texture for sushi. I have a really cool hack that you can do with red peppers, where you roast the top and then peel the skin, and then you
Uh-huh.
can steam it and cut it into little like sushi pieces and stuff. And the tofu as well, like we were talking about. So there's lots of really awesome food hacks for vegan products. And I think that when people start to learn about, like once you start learning how to cook with like seitan and stuff too, as an example, it opens up a lot of really unique opportunities to make different kinds of foods with that too.
Now, what cookbook or book have you gifted the most to somebody transitioning to a plant-based diet?
Okay, so maybe um, I would say that I don't ever use a cookbook, and I don't think I've ever owned a cookbook.
Really?
And
I got like
so
a hundred of them.
like we do have some, I guess, in the house, but I mostly just look for recipes. Like if I'm making something for the first time, I look at different recipes online, and
Uh-huh.
then I make it, and then if I enjoy it, I'll usually make it again, or like, change the recipe a little bit, or like, make it a little bit different. But I mostly find like, and that's the crazy thing, is that like when you look up like vegan food online, there is so much out there in terms of like, recipes and like techniques, right, to
Right.
cook vegan. And so I've
Right.
done most of my research, and my recipes that I've enjoyed, I found online actually.
So you take a vegan recipe and Koryize it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So finally, can you give me one word to describe how you felt before you became vegan, and one word to describe how you feel now that you are vegan?
It's hard to say that without sounding like, I feel like one word. Oh boy, that's a tough one. Let me just think for a second. How do I feel? I feel satisfied, I suppose, with my choice. Like I'm always feeling rewarded in terms of like knowing that what I'm eating has not caused suffering to any animal or any creature. So from that perspective, that's really like, I can't say I feel fit, right?
Right.
Because like I said, I'm not the fit vegan necessarily, but I feel very rewarded. Maybe that's what it is. I feel rewarded for, making the right choice on a daily basis, and I never feel like I'm actually sacrificing either in terms of like the quality or the deliciousness of the food that I'm eating.
Right. Now, it's such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time. What's the best way for people to find you on Instagram, the web, social media, and obviously shopveggie.com?
Yeah, shopveggie.com or shop Veggie on Instagram. And, we welcome everyone to check out the site and have a browse and see. And we also are very open to communication from customers in terms of their user experience. And also if they have ideas or products that they'd like to see on the site as well, we do encourage people to reach out.
That's perfect. Now that's shop Veggie, Vejii.com.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kory, for being on Plant Your Seed. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate a very interesting conversation as well.
Hope you are inspired by this story, and remember, it's never too late to plant your seed. Links to everything we talked about on the podcast can be found on Instagram at plant.yourseed in the show notes tab in the bio. If you enjoyed the show, remember to leave us a review, and until next time, thank you for listening.